You know, there's a song that says, if you could see what I see, you lose your breath for sure. So as I was watching you do the Tai Chi, I was saying how elegant the movements are. And if they could see themselves, I'm sure they would lose their breath. So thank you for that. I call it a performance because I was seeing it as a performance of your elegant movements, elegant of style in your movement. So today I'll be talking to you about the connection to one. And as you know, we study Raj Yoga here. We study and practice Raj Yoga. And Raja means sovereign. Yoga means connection. So it is a connection that returns us to self-sovereignty. But the way it is done is through connection. The knowledge is revealed knowledge, and it was revealed through Brahma Baba, the founder. But what intrigued me when I first came to, when I was first exposed to the knowledge and practice of Raj Yoga was who was it that was informing Brahma Baba of all these things? Where were these revelations coming from? So I'd always been intrigued by the source, by the divine, by God. And I suppose I'm intrigued because that being is light. And I'm intrigued by light. So today we'll be talking about this connection that would return us back to our self-sovereignty, to connect to the source light, to connect to the supreme, as I call the supreme being of light. And so yesterday, we were the sleeping beauties, the souls. It went into the slumber of forgetfulness. And then the beauty, the soul, awoke with the kiss of the divine intellect. Now, the divine intellect is considered to be the part of the soul that is full of luminosity. It's full of light. And it is said to be full of luminosity because it is where divinity lives. So the kiss of that divine intellect is what awakens the soul. And so the connection that we have to the one, to the source, is called the yoga of the intellect. And yoga of the intellect means connect your intellect to the source, because the intellect, it has the ability to connect. And the ability to connect comes from the intellect's ability to remember. So here, connection means that something gets triggered. When I connect to the source, something gets triggered in the soul, and the soul remembers. So after sleeping in the slumber of forgetfulness, connection to the source literally means I begin to remember. And I like this word remembrance because sometimes on the path of, on a spiritual path, on the path of connecting to God to remember, connecting to the source to remember, connecting to the one, I sometimes feel I have to become someone new, something different, something that is not me. It's as if I have to paint an image of myself to create a reality that is not my authentic self. So I'm still living from the outside in. But connection to the source, connection to the one, is allowing me to see who I really am. It's allowing me to see through the process of remembering who I am. So that's very fascinating for me, that I'm actually remembering who I am, because I forgot who I am. I was sleeping and I forgot everything. And so the first level of the connection is a connection to myself, through which I will connect to God. So today I'd like us to begin this process of connection, which I'll take you through, by first of all naming a relationship I want to have with the source, with the divine. Now, I'll bring her in again just for a little bit, Daddy Janki. Daddy Janki was sharing an experience, which is actually recorded in the book, The Story of Immortality, A Return to Self-Sovereignty. And in the prologue of the book, she was saying that, she came on this spiritual path. She was told all these different things that was being revealed by the source, by God, to Brahma Baba. And so many different things she had to do, so many codes of conduct she had to understand, so many principles were being revealed, the principles of life. And then she says, where do I start? How do I connect to the Supreme, that is source, in a way that would then help me make sense of everything? And she said, I connected to him, or to her, depending on how you see the Supreme, as a friend. And the term that is used in India for God the friend is Kudha Dost. Kudha is God, and Dost is friend. And then later on, my dear brother, Canon Casson, once said to me, Gayatri, you're my Anamkara. And I, again, got intrigued with the word Anamkara. And when I looked it up, it's the Gaelic word Anam, means soul, Kara means friend. It's the friend of the soul. So I'd like you to connect to the source today as Anamkara, or Kudadost. But Anamkara is a beautiful term. And so in order to connect to the one, it's not just a connection like current to current, light to light, in the physical sense, energy to energy, but you're connecting in a relationship. Because one of the things of soul as life, one of the beautiful things about life is that it's relational. I'm constantly in relation. I'm constantly in relationships. And so when it comes to the connection with the one, with the divine, I'm going to have a relationship, but choose a relationship that you're most comfortable with. And I think friendship is a very beautiful relationship to have. The thing is about friendship, I know people say I choose my friends, but I always think my friends come to me and choose me, because they enter my life and friendship blooms, blossoms. But I don't strategically go after them in friendship. I don't create a friendship with them. It just happens in the relationship of being together. And so I'd like to start with this. It's like it's happening. Connecting to the one is happening. Life happens. So the connection to the one is happening. So the source now, rather than say the one, the source, the divine, let's just say Anamkara. I'm connecting to my Anamkara, the friend of my soul. Now there are 3 levels of this connection, and they are very significant levels of the connection. The first level of the connection that happens is a connection at the level of being a human being. So I am a human being, and as a human being, I'm connecting to the one. I'm connecting to my Anamkara. The thing about there's a beautiful sentence that describes this friendship. And the friendship is described as a grace of God, the grace of God that comforts and sweetens life. So this friendship of my Anamkara is the grace of God that comforts and sweetens life. So the first level of connecting to my Anamkara, to the one, is at the level of my heart. We hear this saying, to err is human, to forgive is divine. So the luminosity of the intellect connecting to God is to remember its divinity. But I'm connecting to God, I'm connecting to the one as a human being who's created a lot of mistakes along the way. And so the first place that God wants me to connect to as a step to connecting to him is at the level of my heart. So as a human being, the connection is called a heart-to-heart conversation. That's my first level of contact, of connection with God. I'm having, as a human being, a heart-to-heart conversation. And God is saying to me, dear soul, look into the mirror of your heart and tell me what's going on. Tell me what's going on in your heart. And so I would say, but don't you know? You're the all-knowing one. And you are God. And if you don't know what's going on in my heart, how am I supposed to connect to you? How am I supposed to know that you're someone that people describe you to be? That you are light. You are the supreme light. And as the supreme light, you are the parent of I, the soul, who's light. So the supreme light is the parent of the soul that is light. So you're my parent and you don't know what's going on in me. But like any parent, even if the parent knows what's going on in the child, the parent would say, you tell me what's going on for you. But maybe we don't say to the child, look into the mirror of your heart and tell me what's going on in your heart. We would just say, tell me, why did you behave like that? Tell me what's going on in your behavior. Tell me what's going on in your mannerisms. Tell me what's going on. And so in the way we ask the kid, we're already pointing the finger. But God becomes detached and said, tell me what's going on in your heart. Speak to me. Because even though I know what's going on there, I want you to say it to me. And so this first connection of the heart is literally because I think that there is this deep knowing that the darkness that we call the dark night of the soul, it's actually the dark night of the heart. Because the heart is in a lot of darkness. And God knows, this is the knowing, that the first connection that the soul will have with God is a connection based on love. And in order for that love to emerge from the soul, to connect the heart of the soul to the heart of God, is by us looking to see what's going on in our own hearts. So look into the mirror of your heart is the first step to connect to God and to have a heart-to-heart conversation. Now, this heart-to-heart conversation is connected to self-trust and to self-honesty. And so when our hearts is in darkness, or our hearts are in darkness, and when we are in pain and grief, which the heart is in, we lose trust. We lose trust in ourselves, we lose trust in others, and then we're not able to be honest because we're constantly looking for someone to blame for the darkness in my heart. So the heart-to-heart conversation as a connection it's a beautiful visual to have, that if this friendship with my Anam Cara is to comfort me, the place that the comfort will begin is in my heart. So as I look into my heart and I'm trusting myself to see with my third eye, we talked about it yesterday, with that insight to look at what's going on in my heart, what are the blockages and the barriers and all the things we talked about yesterday. How is it sitting in my heart? And how am I speaking to my friend of the soul about the things in my heart? Now, I think that's the first step of forgiveness, self-forgiveness, is to really look at it, because I can't forgive unless I have a witness that is going through this process with me and is helping me. I know that whatever I'm seeing, that witness, that detached observer God, is also with me. My Anam Cara is also with me looking at it. Now, to speak to God about the things of the heart is to speak to him as a human being, not to speak and connect to him in the way that I'm going to tell him what he wants to hear from me. That's how we brought up, right? Your parents ask you something, you're responding because you tell them what you think they want to hear from you. But this is really not that. It is telling your Anam Cara, your friend of the soul, exactly what's going on in your heart. And it's called a heart-to-heart conversation. Now that may be with words, because you're just talking, you know, my heart is in grief, my heart is broken, or you know what, my heart was so generous today, I did X, Y, or Z. So you're talking about the reality of what's going on. It's called a heart-to-heart conversation. It's very, very beautiful to have that at least once a day. Now, the second level of connecting to God with the heart is, we call it more of, you know, people talk about angels a lot. You know, people love angels. You know, the harp is the instrument of the angels. And so when you're on a spiritual path, you also talk about light. Oh, your presence. I felt the presence of light. I felt there was a lightness to you when you were talking to me. You brought light to my heart. My heart felt light after talking to you. So the other level of connecting to God with the heart is at the level of feelings. So then after God says to you, your Anam Cara says to you, tell me what's in your heart, he's going to then say to you, well, describe those feelings to me. He's going to take you to the level of your feelings. Now, one of the things we may not be able to do in our connection to God is to describe our feelings, because sometimes we don't know how to describe our feelings, because there may be one particular emotion that's blocking all the other emotions. But then he takes us to a subtler level of that connection, which requires from us a deeper level of trust in ourselves. And that deeper level of trust is to really not jump into naming the feeling, but actually to experience the feeling. So now in connecting to God, you may say, well, do I only connect to God with my good feelings, my intrinsic divine qualities, or do I connect to God with both? Now, it is always wise, the intellect, that ability within us where the wisdom, the divine wisdom lives, it will guide us in this. It's always wise to be real, to be true, to be yourself. So if there are negative things, you say it. The feelings are not so good, you say those feelings. You describe them. And if they're good feelings, you also describe them. So you're going into a more subtle dimension of yourself in order to bring out your true presence, because your true presence comes from those feelings. They're called pure feelings. Now, why is that so important to connect to God at that level, that subtle dimension of sharing feelings in terms of a connection? It's because this inside of us, it's considered to be a field. And this field inside of us, we call it capacity building, or, expanding the field within you. Now, this field within you is where God will nurture you and heal you. He will use the field of your inner being to nurture you. So how the nurturing takes place is, I think, where the forgiveness and the healing will happen. So the way he will nurture us when we connect to him through these feelings would be he would cleanse those feelings that are standing in the way of the heart healing. So if they are negative feelings, they will be healed, but I need to say them. I need to feel them, and I need to kind of give them over to God. And then they would be transformed. But if I suppress them and I deny them, then I'm not even knowing that they exist. So I am cleansing myself by connecting to God with my feelings. Now, it's so beautiful, isn't it? And so I think that this field that God nurtures within us, the field within the soul, is he nurtures it through teaching us in a way through this relationship with him. By being connected to him allows us to have experiences. So I have the experience of, we were told yesterday, to draw, to receive this love from God. Now, how am I going to receive love from God? Is by opening my feeling self to him. And so this love, through this connection that I will receive, will teach me how to have pure feelings. It's as though the soul, through the experience, is learning how to have pure feelings for itself. The soul will also have good wishes for itself. And the soul will also have pure and elevated thoughts for itself. Now, when I can do that in connection with the source, when I can learn to do this for myself, there's an automatic forgiveness happening within me. I can forgive myself because I'm going through a process with my friend, with God, and God is giving me the strength God is giving me the encouragement. God is overlooking that process with me. So I'm closely connected to someone that is teaching me how to trust myself, how to love myself, how to be honest with myself, not just at the level of speaking what's going on with me, but also at the level of thoughts and at the level of feelings and at the level of what's the good wishes I have for myself. What's the best wishes I have for myself? We talk about the best version. We want to be the best version of ourselves, but that is connected to the wishes I have for myself. Now, when I can do that for myself in this subtle connection with God, then I can do it for someone else. Then my presence will do it for someone else. They will feel it through my presence, even without me saying anything. But then there is a third level of connection. And I think that's the connection when we look at, God looks at the nature of everyone. He looks at the heart in terms of the connection, but he also looks at the nature. And one of the things he sees in the nature of human beings is a profound, pure desire to be of service to others. And that service is called, it's called seva, but it's connected to something that's called, the Hindi word is bhav, B-H-A-V. Now, bhav, the meaning of it is intention, and bhavna, you put on an N-A, it means feelings. So this pure nature to serve others is a connection we have to the one. But what God works with us in this connection is at the level of our intentions. What are the intentions with which you serve? And what are the pure feelings with which you serve? So you sign up for a karma yoga, right, every day. But you're not having yoga with action, with the karma. Your connection is to the source who is reminding you, who is connecting you to your pure intention of doing that action and to the feelings with which you're doing the action. But if you connect to the action in and of itself, you won't be in connection with your pure intentions and your pure feelings. And so that's a connection of God, to my friend who's teaching me how to do actions, how to serve with pure intentions and pure feelings. So these are the three levels of connection that, for me, creates a profound relationship between the soul and its friend, God, because it's taking you through every level of your being, and it is teaching the soul how, through this relationship with a friend, you can begin to trust yourself. So for me, connection with the one teaches us to have self-trust. And it starts with being honest with what goes on in my heart. And I do that through a heart-to-heart conversation. The second is with my feelings. How do I lie to myself when I'm asked to be honest with my feelings? And God is saying, stop lying to yourself. Just let your feelings out and I'll heal them. So the healing, the connection brings us to the healing with our feelings. And the third is our natures. And the nature to serve with pure intentions and with pure feelings. So I would say the image that I would invite you to hold as we go into our meditation is to see God as light and to connect to God as a supreme source of light, as living light, to see the soul as light. And the light of the soul is connecting to the supreme being, the source of light, through the light of the heart. And it's removing the darkness in the heart through heart-to-heart conversation with words in sound, through honesty with my feelings at the level of sharing those feelings, and then to be connected to God through my nature and the nature of the pure intentions and the pure feelings. Now, finally, before we go into the meditation, this thing about sleeping beauty and falling into the slumber of forgetfulness. One of the things I learned that makes it easy for me to have a connection to God is that I'm not guilty of anything. If I went into a state of forgetfulness and I did things in a state of forgetfulness, it meant I made mistakes. I didn't know, so I went against the law. I forgot the law, so I went against it. So I made a mistake. And the accumulation of the mistakes I made was then revealed to me as to err is human. I became more and more human and I made more and more mistakes. And so the accumulation of the mistakes created what is called this false identity. I started thinking anger was fine. I started thinking greed was fine. But then I came to the realization, this is where the wisdom is, that now that I'm connecting to God and the mistakes are being removed, I'm returning to my authentic self. And so we call this the confluence age. You would have heard the word confluence. And the confluence age is the time the heart is becoming wise again. And the intellect is working with this heart to make it wise. And then I'm saying, I have this anamkara. I have God as my friend who is holding the hand of the intellect, who is protecting the heart to keep it sacred. And I'm walking my path with my wisdom and with my heart. And one of the most beautiful things I discovered is that, one of my greatest ambitions is to be an archer. That's on my list. I want to be a really good archer. I want to hit that point in the middle. I want to be an archer now. And as I was sharing this with someone, he said, do you know when an archer missed the point, it's called a sin? And I said, really? He said, yes. So I said, well, it makes sense. The only time you actually do a sin is at the confluence age. Everything else is a mistake. And the sin is when you miss the mark. So this is what connection is all about. That's the only sin that we can actually do or make. It's when we miss the mark of our connection. Because if I miss the mark of my connection, I'll make a mistake. And so this is what it's the beauty of the connection to one. Don't miss the mark. And this is why we have traffic controls, is that every hour, just connect to the one, connect to the source, connect to the parent of the light of the soul, and open your heart, open the intellect, and receive love and receive wisdom, receive touchings of what it is that I need to know. Remember what is lying within you. And then the rest of the 59 minutes will be taken care of. So you just have to give 1 minute and your 59 minutes are taken care of. And this is the connection. Don't miss the connection. Keep the connection because it will keep the soul awake. And when the soul is awake, the soul will remember. If the soul goes back to sleep, it will forget. And it is this connection to the parent light of the soul that will keep the soul awake and keep the soul in a state of remembrance. The remembrance at the level of its heart and the remembrance at the level of its intellect. And so let's go into a few moments of connecting. I saw the living light is living in a state of remembrance. I remember the friend that I had forgotten, the friend of the soul. This friend the supreme source of light, connects to me in the sacred space of my heart. My friend, the supreme light touches the trust and encourages me to trust my heart as the space that will keep me connected connection of love and a connection of honesty. My friend is pleased with an honest heart, a heart that removes fears, a heart that belongs to the source of love. My friend connects me to my intrinsic love and the love within me creates a bond of love with my friend. God's love removes the darkness in my heart. And a heart gets the strength of trust to receive God's love, one drop at a time. A drop that has the potential of the ocean. Drop by drop, the soul returns to its image of full light and to its likeness of a child and of a friend, of a supreme source of love. Thank you.